Sir, please begin.
Okay. So, uh, good morning, one and all present here. Today is Monday, and we are beginning with Monday Motivation with a research webinar. And we have with us very renowned professor, Dr. Arun Kumar Deshmukh from Banaras Hindu University. But before we begin the webinar, our Dean and Director, Dr. Bizel Zaveri ma'am is there. So I request her, welcoming her in this research webinar, along with the research webinar, research scholars of various domains of Parul University. So it is a virtual talk, but definitely the research scholars will get benefited. And we have with us Dr. Bizel Zaveri ma'am, who is the coordinator, who is the director of this Faculty of Management Studies, Parul University, Vadodara, Gujarat. I request her, welcoming her, to give the welcome address on behalf of FMS. Over to Dr. Bizel Zaveri ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ajay, sir, is it audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So good morning to all of you. And today's webinar session that is specifically in the area of research. And we are really grateful to Dr. Arun Kumar Deshmukh, who has spared valuable time with us. So he is going to deliver so many insights in area of research and how to start research, how to start a research publication, and what are the certain things that you need to be taken care when you make a starting of your research writing. So first of all, thank you, sir, for sparing your time. Ajay sir is coordinating with us. So after this section, those who are having any query, doubt, see, this research activities like that, we cannot say that that is a compulsory for everyone. But that is inner interest area, because see, it is not like just that you are just making copy paste from various websites and you prepare any article. When you are writing a research paper, it means that how you reflect your originality, what type of outcome that you are representing to the whatever the research work that you are going to carry out. So many things are behind this research writing. So being a postgraduate student and those who are planning to pursue PhD also, for them this is a necessity to understand research writing techniques. The reason behind that, without understanding the research proposal, I think you cannot proceed further. And those who are a postgraduate students, and right now I think we can say that in postgraduate studies also, this time more than 200 students have published a research paper in various research journals under the guidance of various faculty member of FMS. So that is a great credit has given to the Faculty of Management Studies by students and faculty members. So still the same momentum that we want to continue. And looking to this dimension, I would like to request now, I would like to hand over this platform to Dr. Arun sir, that you can share your valuable insights with our research scholars and students, and you can guide them also that how they can make a more fruitful outcome of their research work. Thank you. Best wishes to all of you. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
All
much.
know that a director is very busy in managing the entire institute, Parul Institute of Management and Research, Faculty of Management Studies. But Dean is coming to welcome because it is Banaras Hindu University, a very renowned university and oldest university of not only India but Asia. So we are very fortunate enough to have Dr. Arun Deshmukh sir, who is a assistant professor in the Faculty of Management Studies, Banaras Hindu University. So before I hand over the platform, I must introduce Dr. Deshmukh to entire fraternity of research scholars, PhD scholars, and various scholars all around the India. So Dr. Arun Deshmukh is working as assistant professor, Institute of Management Studies, Banaras Hindu University. He completed his MBA in marketing specialization from Barkatullah University, Bhopal. During his corporate affiliations, he was sponsored by Malayala Manoram Co. Limited for 1 year executive program from Young Professionals EPYP from IIM Calcutta. Now Dr. Deshmukh completed his PhD in management from Institute of Management Studies, erstwhile FMS BHU Varanasi itself. He has also undergone a 3 month residential faculty development program in management from IIM Indore to hone his teaching and research aptitude for management. His research and teaching interest includes sales and channel management, retailing, service marketing, demand chain management, consumer behavior, social marketing, and public policy. He has more than 9 years of experience in academics and industry. Prior to this assignment, he has worked with JP Business School, JP Institute of Information Technology, JIIT Deemed to University Noida, Tapni School of Business, Manipal University Jaipur, BHU Varanasi, IIM Lucknow, JNU Jaipur, IBS Kota, and so on. His industry affiliations include Malalia Manorama Co Limited, Dainik Bhaskar, Bajaj Electricals. He has also worked on various funded research projects of national and international importance sponsored by Government of India, World Bank, ICAR, MHRD, and ICCSR. With an impact on policy making, Dr. Deshmukh was awarded with 3 national level fellowship of repute during his doctoral research: UGC, JRF, SRF, ICCR, SSR, National Doctoral Fellowship, and MHRD Fellowship. He was also selected for Emerald Research Program in 2014 in UK. He has published his research in erudite journals such as Journal of Modeling in Management, Journal of Revenue and Pricing Management, Journal of Supply Chain Management and System, Journal of Supply Chain Management, to name a few. His 4 research papers have been awarded as the best papers in various international and national conferences. He has also won the Capstan Business Simulation USA competition held at IIM Indore in 2010. He is on the editorial and review board of various journals from various databases such as Emerald, Science Direct, Springer, Nature, Inder Science. He has the membership of several professional bodies such as IMA, ISMCDM, ISTD, etc. If I go to read the entire profile, it will take a lot of time. So with folded hands, I welcome on behalf of Faculty of Management Studies, Parul University, Vadodara, Gujarat, from a renowned scholar and a renowned professor, Dr. Arun Kumar Deshmukh. Over to you, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Ajay Bharadwaj, and thank you. Special thanks to Dr. Bijal Javeri for inviting me to deliver this webinar to the research scholars. And also thanks to Dr. Ajay Bharadwaj for such an elaborate introduction. But simplest introduction of mine is that I am a learner, right? So this is the only introduction that I would like to give for myself. So in the process of learning, today we will try to learn something related to research philosophy and theoretical foundation. Slide is not changing. There any issue? Share it again. I can't help it. आपको ध्यान देके अपलोड करना आपको ध्यान देके अपलोड करना चाहिए. Slide is visible. My second slide is visible, Dr. Ajay. Yeah. So the fundamental question is why I am discussing research philosophy with the scholars today. There's some motivation behind every activity. So my motivation behind discussing this philosophy part with you all emanates from these 2 reasons, though there are a host of reasons, but I'll be focusing on 2. First, earlier I used to start teaching this research methods course to both MBA students as well as PhD scholars, right from topic identification till analysis, interpretation, and results writing, and overall thesis writing. So this used to be the typical flow. But over a period of time, I realized that whatever amount of input we give to our scholars or students, both PhD as well as MBA, so they still remain confused till the end of their research as to they used to come to us to the at the 11th hour and say, sir, what statistical tool should we select for our research? So I used to think that despite giving a lot of input, why they are still in doldrums, why they are still confused, why this conundrum exists, which statistical tools we use. Because they had an idea in mind that research is all about selection of tools, application of tools, and getting some results and interpreting those results. But in reality, it is not the case. Analysis, tools, analysis, and interpretation is just 10 to 15% of the entire research story. What is of significance is something else, and that's what we are going to discuss in today's session. That is that revolves around research philosophy and partly theoretical foundation. The second is, if you look at the industry, this was academic part, but if you look at the industry, in 2003, British Medical Journal has accused Lancet, the famous medical journal, for sponsoring and publishing some of the research related to a cholesterol drug, right? So in that, what has happened is that was the value gap, right? That was the value gap which we will be discussing in the upcoming slides. So why Lancet has done that, and why British Medical Journal has accused that of doing all these things, right? So both in academics as well as in practice, right? Whenever research takes place, one thing must be clear, that our philosophical stand should not be compromised. So in today's session, we'll be talking about the foundation of the research that is very much fundamental to any research activity, right? That is philosophy. With these four key learning outcomes, we'll discuss and elaborate some of the concepts related to research philosophy and theoretical foundation. First, we'll try to understand the research philosophy. Then we will try to see some application of these concepts to real research. We'll try to evaluate various philosophical positions and corresponding strategies. And finally, we'll analyze the interplay between research philosophy and theoretical foundation. I hope this particular story, right, each one of us is aware about. This is not new, right? Can someone, if Dr. Ajay, if you can unmute for a while, and if I ask, can someone give title to this story? Just a quick response from audience.
Anyone wants to speak, then please raise your hand so that I can unmute you, so that Arun sir can get the answer.
Can someone assign a title to this story? This is not a new story. Right from our childhood till academic journey so far.
Okay. I'm someone has raised hand. I'm allowing you to. I have already given you permission. You just unmute yourself and speak, please.
Is my voice audible?
Yes, perfect.
So, title which I would like to give is Perception Varies.
Okay, that's great. That's great, man. Any other title? Quick. All right. So this story is all about an elephant and six blind men. Right? Why I am sharing this story at this platform? Because it has a lot to do with research philosophy. Right? These six blind men are you and me, right? The researchers, right? And as a researcher, we are trying to search some phenomena, right? Someone must be doing research in, say, management. Someone must be doing research in commerce, economics, biodiversity, environment science, science, physics, chemistry, so on and so forth. Fine. So it can be any phenomena, be it a phenomena from life sciences, phenomena from medical sciences, or phenomena from social sciences, right? It can be any phenomena from any discipline for that matter. So you must be studying any phenomena, but that phenomena is nothing but this elephant, right? This elephant, when it was presented to six blind men, right? Could you imagine what they would have, how they would have perceived, as ma'am has mentioned clearly that perception varies, right? So as you can see, the person in front of this elephant, uh, his perception is that because he has touched his trunk, elephant's trunk, so for him, it's like a spear, right? Or a javelin, right? Something like that. the person who has touched its trunk, so for him it's like a snake. The person who has touched its feet, it's like a tree. Similarly, the person who is touching its stomach, right? Elephant is a wall, right? So partially everyone is correct, but in whole, no one is correct. Partially everyone is true, but as a whole, no one is perfect. Fine. So that's the position of research. We are trying to search something about reality or truth to a greater extent. Now, in search of that reality or truth, what we miss is we think that whatever we perceive is truth, but that is not the case. So, what should we do? And how should we go about studying this phenomena called this elephant so that we get a holistic idea, if not complete, uh, so that we can say, okay, reality is this. Again, I would like to say that as a researcher, no one is producing perfect results, and therefore there is always a room for improvement, and always there is a room for research, right? Research, searching again and again. So with this story, I would like to start my discussion on research philosophy, right? Now, let us quickly look at what research is, because it is for a scholar, it is very pertinent to understand the key terms that we are discussing. So, one of the key term which we are discussing today is research, and second is philosophy, and then we'll move on to theoretical foundation. So, research, if you ask any layman, any lay person, he will say searching again, a literal meaning. Fine, searching again. But why do we search again and again? In Hindi, in Sanskrit rather, there is a word, beautiful word called shodh. Shodh means to refine, right? We search again and again to refine the existing body of knowledge. Moreover, research is also a quest for knowledge, right? It's a quest for knowledge so that we can bring out something new to the world, right? New and meaningful to the world. Moreover, Cambridge Dictionary, right? A simplest meaning that Cambridge Dictionary puts what research is. It is simply a detailed study of subject, especially in order to discover new information or reach a new understanding, right? And finally, research is all about, if you conclude all the three statements mentioned above, we can say research is all about development of knowledge about a phenomenon. Particularly when we talk about academic research. Academic research is partly and mostly different from the action research that takes place in the industry, right? So development of knowledge about phenomena, how the knowledge has been built over a period of time in a given discipline. So that's all about research. Fine. Now, philosophy. What philosophy is? Second keyword that we'll be discussing about. So it is simply, again, since we belong to Indic origin, so the first thing that we can connect is the Hindi and the Sanskrit. So it comes from the word darshan. In Hindi, the equivalent word is darshana, which comes from Sanskrit dhatu, that is drish. Drish means to see, right? Simply, with what we say is it's a perspective or point of view, how we see world around us, right? As we have, again, I would like to connect you with the elephant and six blind men story. Fine. Another way to understand what philosophy is, love of wisdom, right? Love of wisdom means we start our journey from simply raw facts and reach to wisdom. And this entire process is, part of philosophy to a greater extent, which we will try to learn in the upcoming slide. To put it simply, we can say philosophy is simply nothing but a systematized study of general and fundamental questions such as those about existence, reason, knowledge, values, mind, and language, as described by Oxford 2020. Now, as I was saying, that how our journey starts with a raw fact to wisdom, right? So, right from scratch, what you can say is in the bottom of the pyramid, you can see there is data, right? And at the top, we talk about wisdom, right? So, in the bottom of pyramid these days, you must have heard heard a word called big data. Big data. Data is always big, right? And when you want to extract some meaning out of that data, right, the quantum of that data reduces, right? Because we contextualize that data to convert it into some information which has some meaning, right? Which is more organized, structured, categorized, useful, condensed, and more calculated. For example, if I say, if I utter a number before you, such as 1201191863. Now, this number has no meaning. This is simply a number, containing few digits, right? But this has no meaning unless I put it into a context. Now, the number that I have uttered, 12011863. Now, if I add hyphen in this entire number, right? So 12 hyphen 01 hyphen 1863. Perhaps this will have some meaning. I have put that into a context, right? Now, what is that? Someone will say it's a date, right? Now I have put it into a context. I have made date out of it, right? Someone could have made, say, a phone number out of it. Someone could have made a train number or plane number out of it. Fine. So I'm putting it into a context. Now, this date is a historic date and nothing but the date of birth of one of the great, spiritual monk. That spiritual monk is none other than Swami Vivekananda. Right? This is information. Right? This date belongs to Swami Vivekananda. This is how one thing becomes information. Similarly, in research, when you collect the data and you put that data into a context, it becomes information. Otherwise, it has no meaning as such. Now, moving up to the pyramid, from information to knowledge, right? When you add more meaning, other than the context, when you add more meaning to that information, right? You get some idea, you learn from it, right? You conceptualize it, you synthesize it, and partly you put it into action, right? You put it into action, how that, for example, a birth of Swami Vivekananda, how that is meaningful, right? How that is meaningful and what can we do, right? So when you put partly it into action, it becomes knowledge. And at the top, when you derive some insight from that knowledge, right? You develop some understanding out of it. You try to integrate it with other spheres of knowledge. You try to apply it, make it actionable, add patterns, use that information and knowledge to make certain decisions. That's how it becomes wisdom. And the purpose of philosophy is to attain that wisdom. And the end purpose of any research is to become wise, right? So this is how it becomes meaningful, and this is how we add something to the body of knowledge. Now, the question is, why philosophy in research, right? The question is, why philosophy in research, right? Philosophy in research because it contains an important assumption about the way in which you view the world, right? As I have already mentioned that philosophy is all about the perspective. Philosophy is all about darshana, how we look at the world around us, right? So this is all about philosophy. Fine. So if this is the philosophy, so what assumption can guide us to look at the external reality that exists around us, on which we are doing our research? You may belong to social science, you may belong to medical science, you may belong to physical science or metaphysics or any science or any discipline for that matter. So to simply put, research philosophy is an overarching term relating to development of knowledge. I have highlighted the keywords: development of knowledge and nature of that knowledge, as proposed by Saunders in the year 2009. Now, congruence research philosophy also helps researcher to obtain the congruence in themes, identifying their theme, their objectives, and consequent generalizations of results. Therefore, it is one of the decisions that has to be taken in the very beginning of the research itself. Now, let's look at the views presented by Guba and Lincoln. They have written a seminal article in the year 1994 on page number 105. They clearly mention that both qualitative and quantitative methods that we apply in our research may be used appropriately with any research paradigm. Question of methods are secondary to question of paradigm. Paradigm word is can be used interchangeably with that of philosophy, so don't be confused with this, right? Which we define as basic belief system or worldview that guides the investigation, not only in choices of methods, but in ontologically and epistemologically fundamental ways, right? So we'll see what these ontology, epistemology, axiology are all about and how they are actually applied in the research setting. I hope as a researcher, you must have come across this research onion. This is not new to any scholar, right? But if it is new, do pay close attention to this. This concept of research onion was presented by Saunders in 2008, and they have mentioned clearly that the outer two layers, right? This requires, say, 5 to 6 hours to elaborate the entire onion, to peel out different layers of this onion. But our focus will be on first layer only in today's session. If time permits, we'll get back and discuss other layers as well. But our entire focus will be on the outer layer, right? So outer layer talks about philosophies, different philosophical stands that researchers take to carry out his research, right? So and corresponding different research approaches, strategies, choices, and time horizons, as well as techniques and procedure. So as I have mentioned in the beginning of the session, as part of motivation to deliver this session, that the question of techniques and procedure is just 10 to 15% of the entire research story. However, majority of the attention scholars pay is on the techniques and procedure, and least attention, and sometimes it is a neglected layer. The outer layer is neglected, neglected layer, and it requires close attention, because if you want to grow in academics, if you want to publish in good journals, if you want to do well in your academic career, right, you should understand the philosophical stance. So the outer layer is talking about 4 different philosophical stances. First is positivism, second is realism, third is interpretivism, and fourth is pragmatism. So we will throw light on each key term one by one, and then we'll try to see how or rather you will clearly observe which stand you are taking to conduct your research, and thereby you will select your appropriate approaches, appropriate strategies, choices of methods, time horizons, and finally techniques and procedures. So with this, I would like to move ahead. Let's peel out the first layer and try to understand the keywords and its application in the real research. So these are the three important dimensions when we talk about philosophy, right? And as we have mentioned, that development of knowledge in any field or any discipline is a journey. In that journey, what matters most is these three terms, these three approaches to the philosophical stance. First is ontology, second is epistemology, and third is axiology. So we'll pick each term one by one. Now, first is ontology. What is mean by ontology, right? So ontology is nothing but nature of reality. Again, I would like to take you back to the elephant story. Elephant, the complete elephant, visible to any person who can see, right, is the reality in its own right, right? So because we can see, and therefore we can say, yes, this is elephant. This is complete elephant, right? We are not talking about the parts because we are touching only parts as a blind man. So as a researcher, we are all blind, right? And partially fooled by randomness. So therefore, understanding the nature of reality is really sometimes become elusive, sometimes become very much difficult for research, right? Because whatever evidence we get, we conclude based on those evidence only, right? So aspect of ontology say we study the nature of reality, right? What is the nature of reality? Or in other words, we can say what assumptions do we make about the way in which world works, right? So I, as a researcher, if I am planning to conduct some study on, say, some topic related to social entrepreneurship, or a topic related to self-esteem, right? So how I will study, right? Or I'm planning to study, say process re-engineering. How will I study? Now, whether I will opt objectivist stand or subjectivist stand, this is my choice as a researcher. But again, I cannot deviate much if my philosophical stand is clear as to whether I'm going to be objectivist in my research approach or whether I'm going to be subjectivist. What is mean by objectivist and subjectivist? When I myself involve into the understanding of some reality related to phenomena, right? That is what we mean by subjectivism. Means I become the part of social reality. On the other hand, when I keep myself aside and observe the reality as it is, right? That is what we mean by objectivism, right? So if you want to understand it deeper, you can understand with the simplest example. Typically, we appear in the examination in either in objective mode or subjective mode. So when it is in objective mode, the evaluator has least room to do any kind of manipulation in the marks. If you either you are right or you are wrong, right? There is dichotomy, fine. But in subjectivism, right, how you write, that matters the most. Suppose someone writes beautifully, elegant handwriting, beautiful presentation. Perhaps the evaluator will award 1 or 2 higher marks than the person who has presented same facts but in a clumsy way, right? So that's how subjectivism. Evaluator in this context is the researcher, right? Which stand you are adopting, and accordingly you will study the nature of reality. I hope this is clear. Then next is epistemology, right? The second part of the philosophy is epistemology. Now, epistemology is all about, epistemology tries to answer one fundamental question that goes like, what is acceptable knowledge in a particular field of study? What is acceptable knowledge in a particular field of study? So these are the four different options available to the researcher, who can opt either of them depending on your research questions and objectives. So the first very choice is positivism, right? Positivism is simply nothing but a stand taken by natural scientists to conduct an experiment. So if you are taking your stand like a natural scientist, you believe in numbers, right? Whatever evidences you gather from the phenomena, you believe in those evidences, you analyze them, and then try to prove or disprove the hypothesis, right? So hypothesis-based research are most of the time part of positivist research, right? And if I'm not wrong, majority of the audience today must be belonging to the social science stream. So as a social science scholars, you must understand that slowly and gradually the research paradigm is shifting from the bottom, that is interpretivism, to positivism, right? Positivism is all about measuring everything in number, right? Quantifying everything and then trying to prove or disprove your point. So that is about positivism. This is first option. So any one of you is focusing on collecting data, analyzing it, and then trying to prove or disprove your hypothesis, then you can say you are opting a positivist epistemology. Second one is realism, right? Realism is a mid path between interpretivism and positivism. The realist scholar see world around him or the phenomena as it is, right? So therefore we have two types of realist. First is direct realist and second is critical realist. Direct realist is seeing or observing the phenomena as it is and trying to explain it to the world in a better way. Second is critical realist. Critical realist is someone who basically focuses on why this phenomena exists this way. He questions, right? So this is critical realist. This is critical realist, right? So this is second option available in the epistemology. This is second option available epistemology. Third is interpretivism. Third is interpretivism, and interpretivism, an interpretivist scholar believe or acts as a social actor, right? He himself immerses into the social reality and then tries to understand the phenomena, right? For example, what social entrepreneurs do, or someone is trying to research the exact definition of what is meant by social entrepreneurship, right? So he will go and observe the actions and reactions of social entrepreneurs, right? Which he or she believes that are social entrepreneurs. So he will immerse himself into the phenomena and then try to interpret that phenomena as it exists. So it is different from realism. It is different from positivism, right? We are slowly moving from numbers to qualitative part. Fine. And finally, the last stand is pragmatism. So a pragmatist or a pragmatic scholar focuses on flexible approach. A flexible approach means what? Depending on my research question, depending on my research objective, I am free to opt any of the stand that I have studied so far. Positivist, realist, interpretivist, depending on my objectives and question. So this is the fourth option. So simply you can say that pragmatist focuses on the mix of all. I hope it's clear. Then now let us look at the theoretical foundation, how these philosophical aspects have an interplay with the theoretical foundation, right? First, theoretical foundation is simply nothing but the amalgamation of concept and context. When I say amalgamation of concept and context, what does it mean? Simply, with an example, I would like to explain this. First, social entrepreneurship, one of the examples that I have been using right from the beginning. So, social entrepreneurship is a concept, academic concept. I want to check how social entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurs behave in a given social setting. So that particular social setting is context, right? Social entrepreneurs' performance in a given setting, for example, or social entrepreneurs' reaction to the external environmental forces, context, right? So when simply you can say, when you apply concepts into context, right, it becomes the theoretical foundation. Now, when we talk about concepts and context, it becomes pertinent to explain another concept that is related to how a concept converts into constructs, and then constructs become your variables, and then variables finally becomes your items, and finally you quantify your research. As I have said, that majority of the researches these days, or majority of the journals, accepts quantitative research, empirical research. So there is an emphasis, clear emphasis on empiricism. So it is pertinent to convert your concepts into constructs, your constructs into variables, and variables into your items, so that you can clearly measure what it is all about. For example, emotional intelligence, another concept I would like to coin. Many of you must have heard this word. Intelligence quotient, we are all aware. It is a over-researched phenomenon. But emotional intelligence or spiritual intelligence is something, which is still, ambiguous. And researchers are still trying to clarify what it is. So emotional intelligence is a concept. When you put it into the context, how in an organization, employees with high emotional intelligence react to a given situation, and how employees with low emotional intelligence react to the same situation. So you are putting that concept into context. In the process, when you further operationalize this concept called emotional intelligence, it becomes, say, you are talking about your awareness level, you are talking about self-awareness, you are talking about tolerance to the ambiguity, you are talking about several other constructs. Now, how you convert these constructs into variables, and further variables into items. So this is how you move from abstract level to a specific level in your research. This is how your philosophical understanding of the research is gelling well with the theoretical foundation, right? So now someone can ask, well, what it has to do with philosophy, right? Yes, philosophy, to answer it in a simple way, I can say philosophy is like trying to finding out philosophy in a research thesis or a paper is like trying to finding out sugar in the cold drink, right? So it is already dissolved. And the question of philosophy comes in the very beginning. However, many scholars are unaware about the philosophical stand, and therefore, in many cases, they opt sometimes contradictory strategies in the same research. So the purpose of this session was to help you understand this particular aspect so that you can connect well. I know this is little heavy because but taking philosophy to research is somewhat difficult, but still it is pertinent to understand for each and every scholar. Then second thing is about theories and models. What role do theories and models play in research? So simply, first of all, what theory is and what model is, right? For example, in marketing, we take theories like, say, theory of planned behavior, right? Or HR scholars study theories of motivation, right? Or theories of leadership. Now, what these theories do? Basically, the role of theories is to contribute to the body of knowledge in such a way that you are in a position to connect the dots. It tries to establish, a theory tries to establish the relationship between the underlying variables, right? And model is simply nothing but the pictorial or graphical presentation of the abstract theories. So theories and models, whatever research you are doing, you should try to identify theories or models which are closer to your research inquiry so that your philosophical stance is clear right from the beginning till the end. Then when we talk about research, again, we usually most of the research or most of the academic research, if you can classify them, you can classify them in two heads. One is theory building research. Second is theory testing research, right? So in the second layer of the onion, you must have observed there are two approaches, right? First is inductive approach and second is deductive approach. So as a scholar, if you think that you are going to build the theory, you are going to build the theory to describe some phenomena, it is directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, you are following inductive approach to research, right? So that way you are trying to build some theory, and the approach that you will opt to build this theory is induction. So simply put, I can say when, for example, Sir Isaac Newton, when studied the gravitation, right? What he did, the story each one of us must be aware that he has seen the apple falling from the tree. What he did, he observed that phenomena. He observed that phenomena, and then he start studying why it is happening, why apple is only falling from top to bottom, why it is always falling on ground, why doesn't it go to sky or anywhere else. Fine. So the approach that he has adopted was theory building approach. He followed induction. However, majority of the PhD research, it falls into the category of theory testing research. Majority of the scholars, they test the existing theory, right? By either adding some new variable to it or subtracting some variable from it, right? So that way you are trying to prove or disprove or refute the hypothesis. Majority of the hypothesis-based research are theory testing research. However, theory building research is somewhat different, right? You do not have sufficient data, you do not have sufficient information to explain that phenomenon. it takes a lot of time to build a theory. But theory testing is something that you can do in a set time frame. Therefore, majority of the scholars opt this path as a theoretical foundation. Then next is why theoretical foundation is necessary. Theoretical foundation is necessary because it helps us identify what are the theses or supporting views, what are the antitheses or contradictory views, and how we can synthesize both supporting and contradictory views to put our point in the body of knowledge in the form of research, right? So this is how theoretical foundation help us in putting our point and adding to the body of knowledge. And finally, it helps us in assimilation of overall research implications. When we talk about research implications, we divide them into few parts. First and foremost is, as an academic scholar, we have our duty to contribute to the existing body of knowledge. That existing body of knowledge is known as theoretical implications. So whenever you read a research article, you must have seen in the discussion and implication section a clear-cut section on theoretical implications. Second is practical implication, right? So these are the two major implications any research will have. Now, how do you connect these two dots, implications and theoretical foundation, right? If you have opted right philosophy, right theoretical foundation, you are likely to have a right set of implications and a convincing proposition that you can claim to the existing body of knowledge. Fine. So theoretical foundation, theoretical implication is nothing but how you or your research has contributed to the existing body of knowledge. What incremental change you have brought in to the body of knowledge. Second is practical implication. We further divide practical implications into two or three parts. First may be managerial implications. Second may be policy implication, and third is social implications. These days, good journals are focusing on implication part because most of the researchers are very good at conducting research, applying fancy tools and techniques, but they are not so good at converting these results into robust implications that will have some influence on the research, right? So therefore, these two types of implications you should focus on. First is theoretical implication and second is practical. Further practical implications, you should think about how managerial perspective will be guided by your research, how policy will be guided by your research, and how society is going to be benefited by your research. So in a nutshell, I can say that starting from your philosophical stand in the very beginning till writing your implication, you need to knit your research very very minutely and very meticulously, so that you can say that the research that I have done is of some value, right? So these are some further readings that you can refer further to learn more about what I have presented in today's session. And with this, I would like to say thanks. I hope I have concluded in time. Now I hand it over to Dr. Ajay Bharadwaj, and it is open for question answer.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very wonderful session, very smooth, very light, and very crispy. You have just pointed out the main points of the research, theoretical foundation, and everything. And through a storyline, you just explained such a vast and such a deep concept. Thank you so much, sir. I will now ask the participants if they have any doubt. They can ask. We have 5 minutes. And I must tell you, this entire session is live on PU Webinar Facebook and YouTube page of Parul University. So those who have missed this session, or due to any internet connectivity, we could not have this. So this entire session is recorded and is posted on PU webinar page, so you can get that from there also. And for that, I'm very thankful to the entire team of Brijesh Acharya sir and IT department of Palo University. So those who have participants, those who have any question, you can raise your hand, and then I can unmute you so that you can ask question. And because such renowned professors come very on short notice, he accepted our invitation. And you know about BHU, that how vast BHU is, and it is one of the largest university residential campus, and Palo University is also one of the private university, top private university in Gujarat. So students, scholars, if you have any questions, you can ask him. Else you can have his email ID. As you can see, his email address is in the screen, on the screen. So you can write the email address, and if you need to connect him directly, he can guide you. He's a wonderful professor, very genuine and very helpful, very supportive. So anyone has any question? If you have any question, you can raise your hand. Do we have any question in chat? No. Sanju, thank you. Okay. Anyone else who want to ask any question? You can comment in the chat box. I can read for you, or you can just raise your hand. I can unmute you, and then you can ask the question. I think sir has explained so nicely that no one has any doubt. So that was wonderful discussion.
Having no question has two meaning. So first is either all clear or all clear. Everything gone above head. So
Right.
which meaning should I derive from
Sir,
this?
I think our scholars are very intelligent and brilliant, so you can take the meaning that they have understood whatever you have taught. And the chats, comments in the chat section are really nice. Varun Manik sir is telling very insightful session. Thank you for insightful delivery. Thank you, wonderful session, wonderful. So I hope no one has any doubt. Then we can, with the permission of Vijesh Acharya sir, we can end the live. It's already 1 hour, and it was very insightful session, sir. On behalf of Faculty of Management Studies, I thank you with folded hands for sparing your valuable time. I know how busy schedule is of yours, but you spared your valuable time for all of our scholars. In fact, I too learned many of the new points, and relating the things through a story, it becomes more easy to understand and grasp. So, on behalf of Faculty of Management Studies, I thank you, sir. And I will be sharing you the different one data, then you fill it. And scholars, you will be shared a feedback form. So kindly respond on that. I will share in the group. Then your guides will send to you. So thank you for joining, and thank you for listening. Any
Thank you so
other
much.
comments you need to do? I think no one is there.
Thank you
So
so
we can.
much, Dr. Ajay, and
Thank you so much, sir.
entire audience, all these scholars. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Brijesh, sir, we can end the live.
Do I leave now, Dr. Ajay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You may leave. Thank you, sir. I'm just.
Thank you so much.
Brijesh, sir, we can end the session. I think we can. Yes, we can stop the live also, and we can end the session, sir. IT department, anyone is there?